Hey, welcome. Welcome to Second Breakfast. My name is Joel. This is Occam's Razor. Before we start the show at 9 o'clock, I always like to remind everyone that what I do every day, which is thank my higher power. I like to thank my higher power for my life, for my health, for my wealth. And by wealth, I mean my spiritual wealth. I pray for others, those that I love, and those that I do not. And then I ask for help. I ask for help to love those that I do not. And I ask for help to get through the day. Just today. If I can get through today, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. You always have to plan for tomorrow, but deal with things today, just today. And if you have problems getting through today, try to break it down into smaller parts and get through that part. And eventually, all those parts will add up and you will get through today. And I like to finish off with the Lord's Prayer and a serenity prayer. And with that, we will go straight into our intro, and then we will be right back with the show. Let me just set this up here. We'll be right back. Sorry about that. I was trying to get the show broadcast on X and try to repost it. For some reason, I'm having a hard time finding the repost button. Hey, welcome. Welcome to Second Breakfast, stream of consciousness that fills part of the gap between the no answer period, which we cover the question period. Every day, the lower house sits, preceded by 45 minutes of a lot of stuff that we cover very similar on this show, which is why we do this show every day as well, because there's so much to cover. We're streaming on 3 platforms: Rumble, X, and YouTube. So please give us a like, thumbs up, follow, share, and subscribe. Most of all, the chat is up across all 3 platforms. So please feel free to ask anything. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words. This veteran appreciates your support. Please down. It makes no sense at all. And seems to be coming right back. Good, good. So yes, we broadcast every morning at 9. And of course, except for Fridays, where we do Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read through of the Less News Aggregate in the Greater Toronto Area, where they host this show at 9 o'clock every Friday morning. And we do a quick cold read through. And then following day, we get right back to this. As you can see right here, we have one of our latest articles up on the Liberal housing failure double down. More recaps from last Friday's no answer period, or as Parliament calls it, question period. I don't know why they call it question period, because you never get any answers, just questions, and sometimes they even ask questions back. It's kind of strange. If you know anything about Parliament, the only questions that are allowed to be asked have to be about government business during question period. It's very odd that the government would ask questions back to the opposition. Of course, here we are on our Rumble channel and our YouTube, and let's get straight into the first story for today, which is in keeping with our thumbnail. Let's have a look at our thumbnail. Let me see our thumbnail here. Where is the thumbnail? Why am I having issues with this thumbnail here? There, that's better. Okay. First, we'll get into our first story. Universal Ostrich Farm neighbors filing a civil claim against the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and the RCMP. Direct fallout from the tribunal that we reported here on Universal Ostrich Farm, finding that the CFIA broke their own rules, didn't follow the rules, and will probably be getting more legal proceedings against them. And as a direct result, all the abuse that was heaped upon the neighbors, well, they're filing a civil claim. We'll look over that as well. The exodus is accelerating faster than Liberals can loot the country. And it's not just businesses and people with their wealth that are leaving. It's now people that are priming their children not to be here any longer. All right, let's get into that first story right here. So, breaking from Daisy Media, Universal Ostrich Farm neighbors file civil claim against CFIA and RCMP for immediate release. Now, he has here a bunch of stuff written, and it's basically what is in this document here. So, let's just go ahead. From Edgewood, British Columbia, February 17th, that would be yesterday, Universal Ostrich Farm neighbors file civil claim against CFI and RCMP. The owners of a privately owned 28-acre residential property located next door to Universal Ostrich Farms have filed a civil claim in the Supreme Court of British Columbia against the Canadian Civil Food Inspection Agency. Civil Food Inspection Agency, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, His Majesty the King in right of Canada, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. The property is separately owned and was not part of the farm operation. The plaintiffs state they had no prior communication with CFIA before their land was seized and occupied on September 22nd, 2025. According to the claim, the residential property was described in a CFIA warrant as Universal Ostrich Farm's secondary quarantine property. The warrant named the owners of Universal Ostrich Farms, not the owners of the residential property. RCMP and CFIA remained on the property for 52 days until November. Still waiting. A little, there we go. So during that time, the plaintiffs alleged continuous police presence and controlled access to their home, daily drone surveillance over the residence and yard. That was pretty annoying. Creation of multiple new access points and extensive property damage. Yeah, cops coming in, trampling all over. They don't care. Spreading of material from the slaughter site onto their land. Oh, the so-called toxic quarantine material that they just left strewn all over. What a disaster. Nearly 1,000 rounds fired during November 6th call directly beside the residence without warning. You know, there are a lot of laws in Canada that really restrict being able to use a lot of existing ranges in Canada, depending on from province to province, and from building any new ranges. It's very difficult to get a range because, well, population density. Further north you go, a lot more open land. I guess it would be easy, but who's going to travel 4 hours to go to the range? Nobody wants to do that. And there's a reason for that because, well, when you fire around, it can go pretty far, and you want to know where it goes. You need a safe area. You need a lot of back empty land behind the backstop where the rounds go, right? In case it doesn't hit the backstop and goes over the backstop. You don't want a lot of empty land back there. You don't want people getting hurt. These guys, they put up bales. It wasn't even mounds of dirt. It was just bales. We don't know what caliber they were firing. 1,000 rounds at night. Are you insane? Like, all of mankind, up until night vision was available, the majority of soldiers don't like to fight at night because, well, it's unpredictable, very dangerous. A lot of these operations are done at night because you are desperate. Shooting a bunch of birds at night for 1,000 rounds, that's pretty quiet desperation trying to hide your crimes in the darkness. The claim further alleges trespass, unlawful interference with property, harassment, assault, and battery, and psychological harm. The plaintiffs are seeking injunctive relief, remediation of the land, and damages as determined by the court. We are forced to go through an armed checkpoint just to enter and exit our property, showing ID, waiting for permission, and dealing with shifting levels of aggression at our own gate, said Valley Turnbull, plaintiff and daughter of the property owners. We live beside weeks of visible animal suffering that ended in sudden gunfire without warning. Our sense of safety and privacy were completely shattered, and we are still distraught that our land was used to facilitate something so horrific. And here is the claim that was filed and all the information from this post right here on the immediate release. So, Heath MacDonald, Minister of Agriculture, it looks like your fuckery is not over with. And this will not die. This will not go away. Yeah. Here's a really good post, which leads right into the other aspect of today's thumb, which is the Exodus. And why are so many people leaving Canada? I've mentioned this before. The exodus of expatriates taking their money and running started immediately in 2015, where the numbers doubled because they knew what was coming with the liberal autocracy that they were going to set up, because they have a history of spending like drunken sailors on meth without accountability until they destroy the economy so aptly that they get voted out, which is basically what usually happens in Canada's parliamentary democracy since I've been alive that I can remember, over 60 years, is governments get voted out. Other governments don't get voted in because they have better ideas. No, the governments in town, in place, are doing such a horrible job that eventually the public gets tired of them and they vote them out for the lesser of two evils, or in this case, lesser of four evils, depending on which province you're in. So here's L.H. Gray responding to somebody who had posted here a post, somebody called Marvin Bauman. Apparently, he's a well-connected German industrialist, scientist who started up his own business, which apparently mimics using a lot of the same monetary bafflegab in order to basically make wealth from nothing by using other people's money, gaining the interest on that, and then basically running that Ponzi scheme with a lot of charts. And in the end, the people that have their money invested in it that they have no control over, well, that money disappears. These industrialists make a bunch of money, and then the press that they own moves on to the next story, and you don't hear about it. So let's listen to L.H. Gray, Canada's fucking suicide pact. Mervyn, you pathetic, sniveling Europhile worm, your little gloating fest over Carney's smug, limp-wristed jab at the President of the United States isn't delicious. It's the death rattle of a delusional parasite, finally realizing the host is shaking him off like the blood-sucking tick he is. You're fully carny-piled, repelled, I guess, is what he was saying down here in his post. Does he say here? This is so delicious, I'm fully carny-pilled. We're shaping a new world. And this video is a bunch of sound bites making Carney look good, as opposed to all the videos that we know out there that really don't make him look good. Congratulations, you've mainlined the purest strain of globalist opium, straight from the veins of a Davos dining Oxford polished banker who spent his life engineering financial serfdom for the masses while pretending he's some enlightened guardian of the free world. This isn't vision, it's a psychology of the eternal vassal, desperate to trade one master, America, for a decaying continent of bureaucratic corpses because the new bosses promise prettier chains. That's right. One boss. Its own demographic replacement now cowers behind NATO while pretending moral superiority? That's your beating heart? Oh, I hate this mouse thing. There we go. That's a bloated sclerotic organ of life support, kept alive only by dollars, defense, and dominance of the very America you're gleefully declaring on the outside forever. Forever? You arrogant, history illiterate child. Canada exists as a sovereign, prosperous nation because of geographic proximity to the greatest economic and military powerhouse the world has ever seen, not because of your retail Atlantic solidarity. 75% of your exports? America. It's more like 85. Your energy grid stability? American trade. They're right next door. Who do we sell our excess to? And who do we suck power from when we need it? Your defense against actual existential threats? As a 38-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces? Yes, we coordinate and work with the Americans all the time. Thinking that they are enemies is bananas. American nukes and Navy? Right next door. Our friends, our buddies. But not under Carney, not under the liberals. They want you to hate the Americans. Our ideological friends right next door. Carney can posture in Parliament all he wants, smirking that some NATO bureaucrat is more up than the man who commands the most lethal fighting force in human history. But really, reality doesn't bend to his elitist sneer or your wet dream of continental realignment. This isn't strategy. This is the tantrum of a spoiled. I'm really not. There's something wrong with my setup. I'm going to have to go through this thing again. Fix this for tomorrow. Trump didn't create your anti American tsunami. He simply removed the artificial dams your elites built with American money. Yes, indeed. All the socialism that we could afford in Canada while not spending on our military was because we knew we were protected by our big brother next door. Now the flood reveals what was always there, a nation of resentful mediocrities who hate their benefactor more than they love their own future. Indeed. So few Canadians have ever put on boots and a uniform to train to even protect their country. And if they had, they might have a bit more of an appreciation of why we live next door to the United States. Instead, we have a bunch of socialists, entitled, hubristic leftists who think that their word should be able to move mountains when they've never done anything in their life to really support their nation, like do any kind of public service or volunteer work, or even put their life on the line for the country. Well, but they're the first ones to say, "Go in America." You wouldn't even know how to protect your own country, would you? You're not shaping a new world. You're accelerating your slide into irrelevance. Hitch your wagon to Europe's sinking ship and watch it as the real nexus of power, innovation, and will leaves you both behind. That's not written really well there, but I know what they're saying. America isn't on the outside. You're voluntarily exiling yourselves to the kiddie table, clutching your croissants and climate accords, while adults rebuild the world you spent decades undermining. Through deindustrialization, by the way. Enjoy the cold, Marvin. It's coming faster than you think. And indeed, Germany has been in the cold, and they have seen the mistakes that they have had. They've had numerous blackouts, some of them caused by people taking out the grid on purpose. But if you had a stable grid with lots of power, you wouldn't have to worry about it. You could just shift the power, but you had no power. You depended yourself on Russian gas, which I think you're still buying in Germany. And you got rid of your nuclear power, I believe. Now you're thinking, oh my God, our grid's down and AI is coming in. You need all kinds of power. What are you going to do? Oh, yes, you're going to correct your errors of your ways. And you're going to ignore the fact that your government's caused the problems in the first place. So the official record, which gets right into the Exodus. So we understand what's going on. We see the propaganda that's being pushed on us to demonize our largest trading partner in order to facilitate the government spending all kinds of effort to get these deals with what, friends of Brookfield, perhaps, under the guise of international trade, which is why it seems that the liberals have done everything to basically destroy trying to get a trade deal. They haven't. I mean, why would you send over 200 officials down to Mexico to get a trade deal down there and continue to ignore the United States, our largest trading partner? I mean, we're coming up on a year since, the last election started, and you said that, Mr. Carney, you were the only man to get a deal with Trump, and still we are with no deal. And everything you do seems to poke a finger in the eye of the United States, trying to destroy getting any kind of deal. And of course, your government controlled press is touting the fact that you're getting together with all these other trading partners across the Pacific, across the Atlantic, on the other sides of the planets. How are you going to get the stuff to them? Besides, Canada's not building anything. Canada is not manufacturing hardly anything to sell or export. So what the hell would we be trading with them? Yeah, you're going to set up all these trade things. What? So we can import stuff from them to an economy that Canadians are leaving because of your policies? Let's look at this, the official record. Why I'm willing to help my kids leave Canada. I never thought I'd say that. Canada was supposed to be the place you stayed. Now I'm actively preparing to help my kids build their future somewhere else, and I'm not alone. This isn't about weather, it's about policy. For years, governments at every level have made decisions that inflate housing, devalue currency, expand spending, increase taxes, and pile on regulation while calling it progress. We were told rising home prices meant strength. Terrible economies, healthcare systems stretched thin, tax burdens that don't translate into visible return. This didn't happen by accident. It was designed through policy choices and voting patterns of a class of Canadians who are insulted. When you point that out, you're told to be patient or grateful. I'm not angry at Canada. I'm angry at the direction. If my kids stay, they'll work harder for less margin. If they leave, they may actually build wealth instead of chasing survival. That's the calculation families are quietly making. And here's the part that should alarm policymakers. When parents are willing to fund their children's exit, confidence is gone. This isn't about disliking the country. It's about believing the incentives no longer reward ambition here. A country doesn't collapse in a headline. It erodes when its productive class starts planning departure. That's not outrage. That's rational response to policy drift. And more Canadians are doing that math than politicians want to admit. And that's the reality. We keep looking across the border, we keep looking everywhere else. And it seems a lot better now to take your money and run. Get the hell out. Practically said that for the last election if the Liberals had gotten back in, and I should have followed through. I should have followed through and sold everything I had and start making plans to leave Canada. Because really, what is left here, the way things are going? They already made serving veterans second class citizens, and they promised to do it again. They keep invoking laws that restrict our freedom, or they keep trying to push them through. The only thing that's been saving us has been I don't know what's going on. Now, uh, we'll finish up with some MAID information here and some Ron Butler. Kelsey Sharon, another veteran, she mentions here France is preparing to legalize medical assistance in dying and criminalize anyone who stopped their loved one from dying. So you read that right. France is preparing to criminalize suicide prevention. So, of course, because this is a European idea and liberals love Europeans, I'm sure they will probably want to move that here. So, meanwhile, Chair Kelsey made a call to a funeral home out in BC. And so she has this conversation here with them. And basically, the location of Keanu Vafefian was mated in Vancouver in BC. And then so she calls a funeral home and says, so you guys do MAID there? And they're like, yeah, we do. We, some people don't like to deal with doctors or don't want to do it at home or whatever. So they can come here. And if they want, we have the full service, then we can, follow through as a funeral home and do all that other stuff. Or they can go somewhere else. It's up to them. Yeah. It's, Canada has become such a grisly, disgusting place where the suicide booths are everywhere. This was not like this before 2015. People weren't running around to go try to off themselves. Now, uh, Jason Kenney is a bit of a goof for everything that he's done. He still has not apologized for being pro-covidity stupidity by coercing people into taking that fraudulent injection. So everything he says has to be taken with a grain of salt. But like I'm often saying, a stop clock is right twice a day. And here Jason Kenney is right about this. It's massively underreported scandal. The Immigration and Refugee Board has been rubber stamping tens of thousands of asylum claims without doing even a cursory examination of them. This massively undermines the integrity of Canada's immigration system and has created a full factor and partly responsible for the enormous surge in asylum claims. So in 2010, I implemented bold reforms to Canada's asylum system together with discrete visa impositions. We reduced the number of asylum claims by 80%, leaving only 10,000 pending claims when the Liberals took office in 2015. Now, of course, that's up to 300,000, and it's going to take them decades to solve. And so remember, Conservatives got in after last time the Liberals were in, brought all those claims down because the Liberals do this every time. But now this last time they come in, they went complete bananas. Full fire hose of insanity on everything. Now we know we still have 5 million migrants in the country that are going to have their visas run out by the end of the year. 1 million of them have already had their visas run out, and the government has no plan to remove them. Oh, they have a plan, all right. I think their plan is to not remove them, give them citizenship, and give themselves and grant themselves perpetual power as their natural ruling power for the rest of Canada's history. That's the Liberal plan. We can see what they're doing. If you don't believe me, look at what's happening in Spain. Dr. William Mackis, MD, he had to leave Canada. Speaking of exodus that the Liberals cause and their liberal-minded friends and all those other uniparty people. If you don't know Dr. Mackis, he wanted to do alternative treatments. And of course, he was also exposing the COVIDity stupidity. So, of course, the college boards all went after him. Now, of course, he's been suing. He has set up a practice now in Florida because Canada chased him away. Tomorrow. Sorry about that, folks. Breaking news, court hearing today. That's today, February 18th, right? We will see the greatest attack on cancer patients in the history of Canada. This attack is being carried out by 3 radical far-left Marxist leaders at College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, CFSA. Dr. Colleen Forestier, CPSA CEO as of 2025. Mylene Thiessen, CPSA Legal Counsel as of 2019, and Dr. Nicole Cardinal, CPSA Council Chair 2025. See pictures of far-left extremists we are dealing with in Edmonton Court today. That's lower down. They are demanding from the Court of King's Bench, 1, criminalization of ivermectin in Canada. Do you believe this? Doctors want to criminalize ivermectin. This won a Nobel Peace Prize back in the 1970s for its discovery. And it helps to regulate gut issues, which, of course, increases your immune system. They allege ivermectin is extremely dangerous and want the court to make the same declaration on ivermectin. Their affidavit is completely empty on any evidence. This will set a precedent for the rest of Canada if it passes. Do you imagine this? Ivermectin, not being able to buy that in Canada, not even for your animals? What is, and of course, when ivermectin was first created and discovered, it was used on humans. After it was found actually work well for humans, then it was introduced on farm animals, not the other way around. Criminalization of right to try. They want all cancer patients to be stripped of their bodily autonomy and punished for exercising their right to try, which they want the court to permanently eliminate. Canadian cancer patients will be stuck in the mainstream sick care system with no options. That's right, deny until you die. These far-left fascists are nothing but a massive death cult. 4, expansion of draconian powers of the College of Physicians. They are demanding enhanced powers and jurisdiction over non-medical fields, which will allow them to go after neuropaths, health coaches, and all other health-related professions they currently have no jurisdiction over. This is to end naturopathy and alternative medicine in Canada. No one has realized this yet. Yes, of course, the big pharma medical establishment is extremely scared of people being able to heal themselves through natural methods. As, of course, they just want to douse us with chemicals and produce compounds from these chemicals, whereas humanity has everything it needs around it in nature. to help itself, to help cure itself. Now, of course, not all cures, mind you. Once you get something, it's very hard to get rid of it. But you have to wonder what's causing it in the first place. We know the environment's pretty toxic, and we do know that injecting certain things in our bodies now have been causing a lot of adverse events, which have realized themselves into all these health conditions that can be treated naturally, but that this College of Physicians in Alberta want only their approved methods that are pushed by Big Pharma, of course. Those who come to Edmonton Courthouse for the February 18th, 2 p.m. court hearing will see all this and more. That would be this afternoon. Out in that time zone in Edmonton, it's 2 hours. Yeah. And of course, the Alberta Premier. Healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction, and the College of Physicians leaders, far left or not, report directly to the Alberta Minister of Health, who reports to the Alberta Premier. I've been told the Alberta Premier has abdicated her responsibility towards Albertans on healthcare. My legal counsel has prepared a blistering court presentation to protect cancer patients. You can support my legal counsel, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. So they're Catherine Christensen at Valor Law. We've seen her some videos. She's very good. These far left extremist CPSA leaders also support and promote death culture. Remember this. MAID, including euthanizing children. Gender affirming care. Any shooters lately? Surgical mutilation of children, which, you convince children they're sexually confused before they've even reached puberty because you're a perv, then I guess you need to cut off their body parts, eh? Illegal vaccine mandates. Yeah, the COVIDity stupidity, turning people into second-class citizens for a fraudulent injection that never worked and has caused all kinds of injuries and unalivings. Covering up COVID-19 vaccine injuries and deaths. 15-year sealing of the records by Prime Minister Carney. Anyone? Bueller? Elimination of the Hippocratic Oath. Indeed, we shall do no harm. By forcing people to get injections to keep their jobs that is harmful, that has no risk-benefit analysis, that's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. When you say, I don't want that, that's violating my bodily autonomy, you're hurting me. Oh, we don't care. It's good. It's for your own safety. Elimination of informed consent, right? Oh, we feel like it's good for you. You need to inject that in your body. Make everyone safe. Yeah. Elimination of patient-doctor relationship. Yeah, well, elimination of doctors, really. You have to have a doctor in order to have a doctor-patient relationship. And they pretty well chased a lot of those doctors out of the country. And very few of them want to work here in Canada. Why would they? Protection of pedophilia and sex crimes against children. Indeed. Why are you grooming children at a young age instead of allowing them just to be children? That's where the stupidity starts. That's Marxism. That's culturalism. They sexually exploit, and they do this on purpose. Whole history behind. Albertans, I can't do this alone. I can't fight this level of evil by myself. For those who have stood with me, thank you for your support. So it'll be interesting to see what the outcome of that court case is today. And funny how it works. Trump pulls out of the World Health Organization, and scientists across the world are now speaking up without fear about incredible cures. Imagine that. They knew that if they spoke up before in the past when they were under the control of the WHO, but now that the United States has decoupled themselves from the World Health Organization and all their big pharma influencers, now all of a sudden we're talking about cures for cancer, paralysis, HPV, Alzheimer's, and more. Interesting. 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 That's right. So when Karin keeps talking about the New World Order, he's not talking about New World Order. He's talking about enslaving us continually in the old world order that he belongs to. The old world order of European autocracy and the Bank of London, turning people into serfs. And let's finish off here with Ron Butler. And here's Ron saying, whoa, 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 the Housing Accelerator Fund started in March 2023. That's 3 years ago. Shut up about the permits. How can construction start? How many construction completions? Enough with the bullshit story of a decade from now. Let's have the numbers, Gregor. Exactly. Gregor Robinson, I've done a few videos of him on my channel regarding the stupidity. And of course, the big video yesterday was just the double down on the housing failure. They've they've delivered 9 houses. And of course, their whole concept of housing delivery is not about affordability or for people to be able to afford to buy a home. It's about rental units. That's right. They're creating a shit ton of rental units that will have nothing to do to solve the lost promise of home ownership. Generation Z, you are screwed, blued, and tattooed under the liberals. You will never be able to own a house as long as these clowns, these drunken clowns spending your money and printing money like they're on meth, as long as they're in charge, you're never going to own a house. Sorry to tell you. And with that less than happy message, I guess we will go straight into our outro. And we will see you next time.